Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, the divine and demonic natures. And what was done so far? What was read?
The next item is where we have to start.
No? Okay. So, but what about those who have not participated in... Okay. The translation is too good not to repeat, so we're going to go ahead and repeat the translation. I'm sure you've all done the Sanskrit already, once or twice, yes? I'll just say Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Okay, this is a translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Get another Gita for you. We'll do it responsively. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, we'll try one more time. I say, you say. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy, and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharat, belong to godly men, endowed with divine nature. So we're going to continue the purport on page 650, starting with the next item. I don't know if it's all the same page for everybody, but it's... The next item is Jnana Yoga Vyavastiti, being engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. Sannyasi life is meant for distributing knowledge to the householders and others who have forgotten their real life of spiritual advancement. A sannyasi is supposed to beg from door to door for his livelihood, but this does not mean that he is a beggar. Humility is also one of the qualifications of a transcendentally situated person. And out of sheer humility, the sannyasi goes from door to door, not exactly for the purpose of begging, but to see the householders and to awaken them to Krishna consciousness. This is the duty of a sannyasi. If he is actually advanced and so ordered by his spiritual master, he should preach Krishna consciousness with logic and understanding. And if one is not so advanced, he should not accept the renounced order of life. But even if one has accepted the renounced order of life without sufficient knowledge, he should engage himself fully in hearing from a bona fide spiritual master to cultivate knowledge. A sannyasi, or one in the renounced order of life, must be situated in fearlessness, sattva sangshuddhi, purity, and jnana yoga, knowledge. The next item is charity. Should we read it through, or is it supposed to be saved? Yeah, it's only, okay, we'll read a few of them, then we'll see how far we go. The next item is charity. Charity is meant for the householders. The householders should earn a livelihood by an honorable means and spend 50% of their income to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. Thus, a householder should give in charity to institutional societies that are engaged in that way. Charity should be given to the right receiver. There are different kinds of charity, as will be explained later on. Charity in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Charity in the mode of goodness is recommended by the scriptures, but charity in the modes of passion and ignorance is not recommended because it is simply a waste of money. Charity should be given only to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. That is charity in the mode of goodness. Then as far as Dhamma, self-control, is concerned, it is not only meant for other orders of religious society, but is especially meant for the householder. Although he has a wife, a householder should not use his senses for sex life unnecessarily. These are restrictions for the householders even in sex life, which should only be engaged in for the propagation of children. If he does not require children, he should not enjoy sex life with his wife. Modern society enjoys sex life with contraceptive methods or more abominable methods to avoid the responsibility of children. This is not in the transcendental quality, but is demonic. If anyone, even if he is a householder, wants to make progress in spiritual life, he must control his sex life and should not beget a child without the purpose of serving Krishna. If he is able to beget children who will be in Krishna consciousness, one can produce hundreds of children, but without this capacity one should not indulge only for sense pleasure. We'll read one more. Sacrifice is another item to be performed by the householders because sacrifices require a large amount of money. Those in other orders of life, namely brahmacharya, vanaprastha, and sannyas, have no money, they live by begging. So performance of different types of sacrifices meant for the householders. They should perform agnihotra sacrifices enjoined in the Vedic literature. But such sacrifices at the present moment are very expensive. It is not possible for any householder to perform them. The best sacrifice recommended in this age is called Sankirtan Yajna. This Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of, together, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the best and most inexpensive sacrifice. Everyone can adopt it and derive benefit. So these three items, namely charity, sense control, and performance of sacrifice, are meant for the householder. Om ajñānaṁ gyananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam jena tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobhistam sthapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swapadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatcha Deshatarane. Srila Prabhupada ki. So this is the beginning of the 16th chapter, the divine and demoniac natures. Krishna's giving an idea of what are godly qualities. And we can see so much beginning with fearlessness described about the sannyasi, those who are renounced, have full dependence on the Supreme Lord, and just the purification of one's existence, and many beautiful qualities. And then Prabhupada in his purport is elaborating on these different symptoms of how to cultivate knowledge and the purpose of the Vedas and the sannyasis. So we discussed a few things. That a sannyasi's business is to travel and preach, just like Narada Muni is traveling all over the universe under the order of Lord Brahma. This is the Guru Parampara system, and Srila Vyasadeva felt the need, the essential need to give us the Vedanta Sutra in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, the knowledge of what to do, what not to do, how to become really happy and satisfied in this life, in this world. Unfortunately, people in this material world, they use their energy and all their time in the pursuit of sense gratification. So when the sannyasi beggars, they call them, they're begging from door to door, but only for the purpose of enlightening the householders, not simply just to get a nice sabji and chapati and be happy. The Goswamis in particular, they were from the highest order. They were actually born in Brahminical families, and they were managing the whole government for Nawab Hussain during the rule of the Muslims. Sanatana Rupa Goswami and all the other Goswamis, they came from very prestigious high families, and they were very much aware of what the pursuits of material life are about. You know, money and sexual relationships to enjoy this life, sense gratification. But they became mendicants, and they studied all the Vedic literatures for the purpose of freeing the conditioned souls from their darkness, from their ignorance. Because we can read books all day long, but when you meet saintly personalities, that very the sadhu sangha sarva shastra koi lavamatra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hoy, that one actually awakens his enthusiasm for spiritual life. Because without people will sit in a class and some will just say, okay, very nice, it's a very nice thing, but then go back home and continue their daily activities with their family and their pursuit of making a wealthy situation for their families and protecting them in so many ways. But without the guidance of Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and without the help of the spiritual master, one will be lost in this world. And the whole Bhagavad-Gita was to reawaken. Krishna could have spoken to Vyasadeva. He could have spoken to many great saintly personalities. Why did he pick Arjuna to speak the Bhagavad-Gita? Krishna, he declared to Arjuna, because you are my friend, you're not envious of me, I will disclose this knowledge to you, by which you can come to me. This is the whole key by coming into the material world due to envy and misuse of our minute independence. Krishna is a supremely independent. He's Satchidananda Vigraha, eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. We are also eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and we have minute independence. And by misuse of that minute independence, we find ourselves conditioned in this material world. Many points here, but it's going to give the basic philosophy just to get started, warm up to all of you. Srila Prabhupada was very, if you hear his lectures from the early 60s, 66 in New York, he was giving full description. Imagine the translation, the amount of effort just for these 3 verses, 4 pages of purport with depth, and speaking very frankly, because everyone in this material world is looking for sense gratification. But here he's saying that brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, there's no sex life. And everybody thinks, well, then what is life all about? The family unit is the impetus for the man to work hard and build his fortune, provide a home, provide education, all the necessities to make the family life happy. He has to do that. And basically, although in the Vedic culture it's out of duty, that astrologically they calculate that this boy and this girl are compatible, and the girl is protected by the father in her youth, and then by the husband, and then when the vanaprastha or renunciation comes in play, the children take care of the ladies. So the ladies are actually worshipped and protected in Vedic culture. Sometimes, especially with the strong language in Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, about how even though Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the most merciful incarnation and very, very eager and to give love of God, and love means exchange of feeling and emotions, and what experiences we have based upon the movies and literatures and our upbringing and our wild ideas in our mind and senses that we're entrapped in. Just see, we become packed into the womb of a mother who has a certain, the mother and father have a certain natures and character, but we're carrying all this karma from our desires in the form of a subtle body. Although the earth, water, fire, air, ether has dissolved and the body went back into the earth after death, everyone's dying, we're all going back into the earth. But that spirit soul, that minute spirit soul, still covered by a subtle covering of mind, intelligence, and ego. And this is very difficult to overcome. We have a certain identity of ourselves, and based upon where we were born, the culture in which we were born in, due to our past karma, we act in certain ways. We're kind of driven to be inclined to act in certain ways. So in Bhagavad-Gita, it's teaching what is the effect of the 3 modes of material nature. What are the different processes by which to get free from the illusion? Arjuna is asking many questions, how do I get free from this? And, where these desires come from? So the very first teaching, Dehinosmin yata dehe komarang yovanang jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. The embodied soul continually passes from boyhood to youth to old age. At the time of death, the self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Because most people in the material world, they don't care. They think it's all happening by chance. All the planets are floating in space. It just happened by chance. The sun is shining and providing nourishment and light, and the moon is supplying the essential ingredients, making all the vegetables very succulent and wonderful. And then the fire, Krishna says, I am the sunlight is not just some globe burning since time immemorial. Where's all this coming from? It's coming from the Brahmajyoti, from Krishna. They have no answers. And Krishna says, I am the fire. I produce the food stuff, and I also digest it. Without that fire of digestion, then there's no question of living and existing. So, for the convenience of the materialists, they say there is no God. As we progress in this divine and demonic natures, that those who are atheistic, they don't want to understand because they're determined to enjoy in this world. There's one story in the 6th canto of how the demigods were defeated by the demons, and the demigods prayed the Lord Vishnu that we need some way of defeating the demons, because the demons conjured up Vritrasura, who was meant to kill Indra. So Vritrasura was actually a great devotee, although in a demon body, and he was preaching to Indra that, why are you waiting? Vishnu empowered your Vraja, your thunder weapon, your thunderbolt weapon. So use that, kill me, because when you kill me, I go back home, back to Godhead. And then you can actually have the kingdom, and you can enjoy the heavenly planets. So it's described that although Vritrasura was considered externally as the demon, he was the devotee. Whereas, although Indra is a devotee, but he had material motives, he had material desires. He didn't want to go back to Godhead. He wanted to have a kingdom where he can enjoy. So this is what's reflected on a minute level in this world. People are thinking, they pray to God, can I go to heaven? Or, in some other religions they say that by, sacrificing your life, you will enjoy with so many beautiful women, and you'll enjoy this way because, you gave your life for a good cause. In the Vedic literatures also, Kshatriyas, if they fight for a good cause, they do achieve the heavenly kingdoms. So all the religions have some truth to them, but unfortunately without the guidance of Sadhu Shastra Guru, the bona fide teacher, then people start interpreting, speculating according to convenience. Whatever's convenient, they'll suggest. But in general, although in the pretending to be religious, most people in the material world are atheistic. They may have some beliefs, but they're not that they accept that. What is the law of God? Who am I? Who is God? What is my relationship? This is not even considered. I better touch some of those other items. Let me see what they were. Let's see. Charity. So the sannyasi's qualifications is that he studies Vedanta, he's fully dependent on Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he's fearless, just like a Charanaravinda. Srila Prabhupada, to do what he did is a sign of total fearlessness. Cross the ocean with, we all know the Prabhupada Lilamrita, just amazing power and energy of the Lord sent him just so that we can actually learn by his determination and his faith in his Guru and faith in Krishna. Yasya deve para bhakti yata deve tata guru tasyaite katitha hyarta prakashante mahatmana. One's a Mahatma who has faith in Krishna and Guru. And you develop that by hearing. Srila Prabhupada was noted by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati that he likes to listen. And one who's intelligent, he will sit in the association of devotees and hear the glorification of Krishna, hear the glorification from Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. In just the very atmosphere, the Lord is present. Wherever the Lord is being glorified by his devotees, this is kirtan. Sitting and glorifying the Supreme Lord, the creator of everything, the facilitator of all the universes and planets, providing all facilities for different beings, from higher demigods to human beings to lower species of life, all the unique bodies and environments, everything so scientifically and minutely calibrated by the Supreme Lord to facilitate everybody's little desires and karmas. And we think, why such a complicated affair, this material world? It's because Krishna is great. He has unlimited desires and he has unlimited potencies. He's experiencing certain flavors in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual kingdom, with his intimate associates in different ways. And Goloka Vrindavan planet is massive, and there's so many Vaikuntha planets, and the Lord manifests in different forms in each of these Vaikuntha planets. And in the Vaikuntha planets, the personalities, they want to reciprocate in that way with the Lord, and they're fully happy. And then there's those slow learners in the material world, that's us, and we become nitya-baddha, like eternally conditioned. But it's terminology, because a eternally conditioned soul can become enlightened and can become a nitya-siddha, meaning that you awaken, you take all the shells and coverings and misconceptions and the false ego in mind, and you have purified intelligence. Everyone in the spiritual kingdom has a spiritual body, eternal spiritual body. Whereas in the material world, we're forced into a material body made of skin, blood, bones, a lot of, roadways inside there, and this organ, that organ, brain, the tongue, ear, nose. Krishna thought of everything. When you go to a Porsche dealer, they pay designers how to make the wheels, how to make the hubcaps and the different engine parts so it runs smoothly and efficiently. So just see how Krishna made such a machine. It has arms that you gotta itch, you can do whatever you gotta do. You gotta go somewhere, you have feet. You have to see something, you have eyes. Oh, you have to hear something, it gives you ears. Taste something. So Krishna, he's covered everything in this world, but he's telling us, Abrahma bhuvanaloka punaravartano arjuna, from the highest planet down to the lowest planet, from the demigods down to the little ant, this place of misery. Why? How can it be that? Because it's just a reflection of the spiritual world. And everyone here is going to grow old, get diseased, and die. No one's going to be free of death. But we're eternal, so we have a problem here. So we should act in the human form of life, which we're given some intelligence, in such a way to awaken that love. And it's described here that charity is a must. As householders, you have to make an honorable living. I know that we have one devotee here in our colony. He's sower. He won't take a paisa more than what his bill is. People are very, proud, just like Vasudeva was respected by even Kamsa for his word of honor. So there are different qualities that, as a human being, from the highest stage of taking sannyas, but here charity is described, that a householder should give in charity. Just like Nanda Maharaj, when Krishna came to him, Vasudeva brought Nanda, or Krishna, to Nanda and Yashoda. So Nanda Maharaj gave away so many cows to the brahmanas, gifts, gold, different jewelries. We can't imagine, thousands of years ago, just by bartering, they had so much opulence. In our own feeble mind, we may not understand and think, oh, these are just stories. But the reality is there. It's in the history. This is not just some mythology. This is the fact. So charity is very important, not to waste it. Monies on political rallies and or, supplying slaughterhouses and or giving money to institutions to feed people by slaughtering the cows and different animals. Without knowledge, it's mode of ignorance, and mode of ignorance is simply a waste of money and waste of energy. So best to utilize our charity, our monies, for printing books and going on Sankirtan, preaching, because this was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's method, singing, dancing, preaching, giving everyone a chance, even Jagai and Madhai, just giving this holy name to everyone, wanted to spread it. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, following the mood of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his father, and the Goswamis, all these treasure house of literatures, spiritual guides back to the spiritual kingdom. What is the greatest gift? Some touchstones, some mounds of gold, jewelry and expensive material items of this world. It's all temporary. It's all just a flickering flash, a flower in the sky. They call it phantasmagoria. I never heard that till I came to Krishna consciousness. Phantasmagoria, something that really doesn't exist, like flowers in the sky or horse eggs or whatever they call it. Then, as far as Dhamma, self-control is concerned, it's meant. Religious life means that abiding by rules and regulations. It's not that we can break the law and think that we're free. My son's a policeman in Florida, and I know that if you break the law, he will arrest you, okay? So God gives real laws. These are God's laws, nature's laws. They call them nature's laws, but to understand nature, mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam, that nature is working under Krishna's direction. So to understand nature's laws, God's laws, we need guidance from Guru. We need to inquire from the spiritual master, what is the purpose of my life? How do I do it? First thing you do, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, no meat eating. And for most people they think, no, no, no. What do? We sing and dance. We hear the beautiful philosophy. We chant the holy names of the Lord in the association of devotees. And a higher taste, parang drishtva navartate, awakens. We have to awaken that higher taste, otherwise we're not going to give all these things up. So it's describing about self-control here, specifically about family life. If you're a brahmachari, I was a brahmachari for 9 years, married now for 36 or 37. But it's like that. Generally, brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. In a good culture, Vedic culture, there's discipline, there's heritage, there's tradition, proper training. So if you have good upbringing in brahmacharya life, good education, then you can get married and follow the rules and regulations according to the Vedic literature. But in Kali Yuga, it's very, very difficult because people are called dvipada pashu, or this, the garbhadan sanskara, the religious activity required for getting good offspring, godly offspring, so the mother and father are fixed in their consciousness, and their purpose is to bring a child in this world that can become God conscious, because we're not supposed to become mother, father, guru, or teacher if we can't free our dependent from the cycle of birth and death. So there's struggle. You know, you can hear about the stories of the great yogis who had difficulty. Jamil, he was a great Paka Brahmin, he had a good wife, everything. He got sidelined with a prostitute, and his whole life was pretty much on degraded activities and embarrassment for his family. But somehow or other, good fortune of calling his son Narayan. So he was given another opportunity to see the Yamadutas, the Vishnu Dutas, discussing what is real religious principles, who's protected by the Lord, the Vishnu Dutas. So the holy name is the protective shield, like Indra had the Narayan Kavacha shield to protect him against the demonic forces. So this chanting of the Lord's holy name together, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, has a magical effect. We may not understand how a few words of vibrating and repeating again and again, it sounds almost like too good to be true. But this mantra means to free the mind. And it cleanses the heart. Cheto darpanam ajñānam. So the chanting is to be the very first, topmost, the Sankirtan. This performance of Sankirtan, we went from controlling the senses. But what's that prayer we say before we eat? Sarirar vijjajal jujandriya taikal jiva paleve shaya sagare. The senses are a network leading us to, because of wanting to, of all the senses, the tongue is the most difficult to control. So we want to talk nonsense, we don't talk nonsense. You want to eat nonsense, you don't eat nonsense. Better to speak Krishna Katha, better to just only take Krishna Prasadam, and don't spend time, especially in the translation, it gave a very clear indication that one should be averse to fault finding. There's no end to finding faults with people, and then we can just sit around and discuss it for days, years, and lifetimes about people's faults. Compassion for other living entities means giving them Krishna. But also it says here, freedom from envy and the passion for honor. All these qualifications, as Lord Chaitanya said in the simplistic terms, Trinadapi Sunicina Torodapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. The goal of life is to chant the holy name and make our vessel conducive to hearing about Krishna from Bhagavatam and Gita and from the devotees. And the way to do that is by working on our humility. But all these divine godly qualities, yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana, they appear automatically by following the order of Guru. Stay in the association of the spiritual master by always regularly hearing Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-Gita. This is also an austerity. It's also self-control. That daily at this time I'm reading for 1 hour with enthusiasm, following Bhagavatam. And we have our schedule because the devotee, he's very regulated. If you want to stay strong, you have to be regulated. Because if you have a irregular lifestyle, not sleeping properly, not eating properly, and then the senses are very powerful, and the mind will naturally drag us towards sense gratification. But if we actually know that early to bed, early to rise, you need the energy, and be focused that the formula that Srila Prabhupada has given us in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is the perfect formula. Just, he came and analyzed the situation very quickly, from seeing the Boston harbor and going to Butler, Pennsylvania, having some home programs, some school programs, feeling the situation out. He understood very quickly that I need to be in the midst of it. I need to go to New York City, in the midst of the biggest city, the most popular place. And in New York City, at that time, there's all kinds of hippies and intoxication and drugs, and it's a complete Kali Yuga, manifestation. And Srila Prabhupada, based on the teaching of the Acharyas, based on the teachings of the Goswamis and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, not that he conveniently made up his own religion or his own ideas, although, as I mentioned in the other class, that the Brijabasis would sometimes chant 100, 128 rounds or 64 rounds, but we're all in a struggling situation, minimum 16 rounds, but all day long, engage yourself in service or hearing or chanting, and we do the best we can with our family life and our bodily concept, because we all have to grow through all this. When you're young, the senses are even stronger, but when you're old, doesn't matter. Still, the mind has its demands. So the sacrifice that's described here and glorified Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sangas Parashadam Jagnai Sankirtam Prayarijanti Hi Sameda Saha. That in this, those who are intelligent, especially in this age of Kali Yuga, they worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his associates. The Panchatattva, the Lord always appears with all his associates. When Krishna appeared, he told demigods to take families in Vrishni dynasty. Also, Srimati Vrindavan is here. Srimati Radharani came, Balaram came, Nanda Yashoda, all the cowherd boys, and all the different activities the Lord performed in a very unique way to attract us. And it is attractive, but one needs faith. Because the beginning, Shraddha, is a very important aspect. Most people, due to false ego, Radha, due to pride, it's very difficult to surrender. What does it mean to surrender to the Lord? But once one sees such a accomplished, Srila Prabhupada, what a unique transcendental personality Krishna is utilizing for spreading the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. And this is exactly what Srila Prabhupada did in a very short time. It's amazing how he can come and simply by doing the chanting, the Harinam Sankirtan, and distribution of his Bhagavatams, how he planted the seeds of bhakti, and how he empowered, just by his presence with his young disciples. You go to Europe, you go to England, you go to, then all over the world, they were become so eager to please the spiritual master. That enthusiasm, that determination that was exhibited by Prabhupada prior to leaving on the Jaladuta, every day at the Scindia camp, he would go out to distribute his magazine back to Godhead, and then the people who were staying nearby said, "Swamiji, how was your day?" "Oh, it was a difficult day, not very many customers." And he looked then he'd bathe and he'd be freshly tilaked and translating and again in the good spirits. So we should not let the challenges of life distract us to the point where we give up our enthusiasm for the devotional service. Because without enthusiasm, things become dry. And the more we hear about our spiritual existence, the more we hear about the spiritual world and how to go to the spiritual world, we become enlivened. And then once we apply the techniques of sadhana bhakti and bhakti-yoga, and by the good fortune of being in Vrindavan, we have the most beautiful deities in the world. We have great kirtans. We have so many devotees eager to see the deities. All the holy days, everyone's doing parikrama, and Radhe Radhe, Jai Krishna Balaram, and this is the lifestyle. And so to live in these conditions, we're fulfilling the orders of Shastra that chant the holy name, read Srimad Bhagavatam, worship Tulsi Devi, live in the association of devotees, living here in associating with devotees and hearing the holy name is the highest and most rapid way of awakening our love for Krishna. And it happens, but it takes our determination and time. So we always stay strong in Krishna consciousness, and the way to get stronger is hear more and chant more. Srila Prabhupada would receive many letters of devotees who are struggling with challenges, and basically says, you follow the four regulative principles, and that you're chanting nicely and hearing nicely and avoiding offenses, then Krishna will make arrangements and adjustments. You can't imagine, like Sudam Brahmana, he and his wife, very poor, had nothing. And he's such a great devotee of the Lord, but for so long they seem to be living in poverty. But Krishna made all arrangements for them. But still, even though it was a changed lifestyle, it wasn't that Sudama was less happy previously. A devotee is satisfied in all conditions. And this is what we learned from the Goswamis, this is what we learned from Srila Prabhupada. He was happy wherever they gave him facilities, and it wasn't that he was looking for some kind of happiness in this material world, because he was a Vaikuntha man, a spiritual, from the spiritual world, and giving us all an opportunity to also go back home, back to Godhead. So we finished at, you'll remember? For tomorrow, I don't know, for tomorrow's class? You have it, okay? So we have a few minutes left. If anybody has any questions about the subject matter? Bhagavad-Gita.
You were speaking about the senses are very strong. Just like when we are in the childhood, senses are okay. But as we grow, the senses grow weaker. So Prabhupada gave this example. When I was trying, I was jumping and dancing. Now I'm old man, I cannot jump and dance. So senses become weak when you become old.
Yes.
So the mind is still thinking so many things. So can you explain something about that?
Yes, as we get older, the senses, they don't function accordingly. You see less, you hear less, everything starts deteriorating. And even though we may have desires, we cannot fulfill those desires as previously. Who was that? Akbar had his secretary or counsel, one of his ministers told him, when does this desire for sense gratification leave? And his minister told him, up to the end of life, the desires stay with you. And so he gave an example to the Akbar that you bring your daughter, they visited a very old man on the verge of death. And as they came in, the old man perked up and immediately looked at the young lady. So the desires have been with us for many, 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 many lifetimes and deeply ingrained. And the way to free the mind from the desires is to fill up the mind with Krishna and chanting of the holy name. It's a cleansing process. But in this material world, it's not like just because the senses don't work, the mind may still desire various ideas of sense gratification. But our only solution is following the order of Guru and hearing and chanting. Continue taking the medicine. Any other questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Can you say something about aversion to fault finding? That is also one of the qualities mentioned here.
About fault finding?
Aversion to fault.
Aversion to fault finding.
Aversion to fault finding. Can you say something about it? Because we are from a long time, so because if we find faults, we look down upon devotees with contempt.
Yeah.
So then other people don't feel comfortable like
That's a good one, because basically in this world they call it dog eat dog. One wants to dominate another by fault finding, glorifying themselves and putting others down. But we hear about Srila Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. When one is actually developing knowledge, jnana, then vairagya comes automatically. Then he's not interested in fault finding. Because the more we cultivate knowledge, and understanding of our identity as eternal spirit soul, that the Lord is in my heart, He's in the heart, He's in every atom, He's in every living being. So we think that, okay, I am finding fault with this being, but the Lord's in his heart and giving guidance. And the more we hear and understand this philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda, we're simultaneously one with the Lord, but we're different. And every living being, when you see a godly person, you see that all living beings love him. You know, they make pictures of Lord Jesus and all the animals are there and they're not afraid of him, and it's a loving exchange. So I say jnana, vairagya, then we'll look to become more humble and avoid this fault finding. Fault finding is there, and everybody has that tendency in this material world because of envy and jealousy. So the godly qualities are there for those who cultivate them and surrender to Krishna. Any other questions? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.